Hi everyone, this is Rals. Welcome to another Inside Jungle episode. Today we are going to feature a new addition to my plant collection, a miniature orchid. Miniature orchids are as cute as they come and they became largely available in the last few years in all large stores. Having a few struggling orchid pots at home in the last 2 years since I lived back on land after a career at sea, I refrained from buying a miniature one on the principle that I already owned this type of plant. But guess what? The other day while in the Lidl store, I simply could not help myself. If you are familiar with Lidl stores, you know that they place all sorts of plants precisely by the entrance, so you can't miss them among other products. Not only I did not miss the plant area, but this time I felt a strong urge to adopt a mini Phalaenopsis orchid. The pot simply got glued to my palm and found its way to my shopping cart, to my home, and to my heart. And here we are, 5 days later, talking about this mini beauty. I guess you can tell just by the look of it why they are growing daily in popularity. Plant lovers, orchid enthusiasts, and people who simply need to bring some life to their office spaces and to indoor areas are probably adopting at least one Phalaenopsis orchid in their lifetime. Now, after a few months though, the Phalaenopsis grows in size and can become a desk space or windowsill space eating monster. This is why in the last decade we started turning our attention to mini orchids, the most common type being, you guessed, a mini Phalaenopsis. Its foliage is much smaller in size than the standard variety, and this saves us a lot of space. The flowers are smaller also, but their beauty stays the same. Also, the mini Phalaenopsis tends to flower more often and to give more flower spikes, or so they say. As I have recently purchased it, I will monitor it in my plant journal and keep you posted. Now, another reason why the mini variety is popular is that it's easier to manage its weight. As you know, in their natural habitat, Phalaenopsis orchids they don't grow upwards but rather tilted or downwards, being attached to trees or rocks. This is why, no matter how many generations of hybridization they have been through, they still tend to grow sidewards. The weight of the foliage and the flower can jeopardize the stability of the pot. While the mini variety is less heavy, even if tilted, and not as prone for tipping over, and this ensures the durability of your pot and plant. Now let's talk about how we can show our love to these baby beauties. First and foremost, you must know that caring for mini Phalaenopsis is very similar to caring for their larger sisters. Like the standard variety, mini orchids love humid conditions with indirect bright light, an orchid-suitable substrate, and careful watering. However, please be careful with watering and fertilization, as miniature orchids tend to be more sensitive regarding these two aspects. They require less watering and less fertilization. The size of the roots can be also very similar. As you can see, they are quite same in size. The only difference is that a mini orchid will not produce so many roots. Nonetheless, you should check your orchid every year and repot it to as larger sizes if needed. It's still going to take a much smaller space than the standard one, that's for sure. In terms of soil, orchids thrive in a mix of bark, a tiny layer of soil, and moss. If you can't find moss in your stores, you can replace it with cocoa peat, which is actually what I'm going to do. To be very honest, I'm gonna kindly ask you to use cocoa peat instead of moss, because moss resources on Earth get depleted and they are less and less every year because of irresponsible gardeners. I know it's nice to see a moss environment for your plant, but it's damaging the overall ecosystem of our planet. Cocoa peat is available today even in countries from colder latitudes such as where I live, Romania, far away from the coconut trees, and it's also an environmental friendly resource. If your local garden store does not have it, I'm sure you can find it online in your country. So please remember, cocoa peat it's much better than moss, not because the plant will love it better, but because it's the responsible thing to do. Now going back to our orchids, like many indoor adapted plants, They love bright indirect light, as said before, and including the miniature variety. Morning direct sunlight is alright, but if you have a hot western facing window, you have to think of another place for your pot. When you find the place for your pot, monitor the plant for the first few weeks. If the plant receives a sufficient amount of light, its leaves will have a dark green color and it will develop flower spikes. If there are no flower spikes, it's a sign of too little light, while yellowing or red leaves mean that there is too much light and you should find another spot. Your mini O will love humidity, just like its bigger version. If you can, place it next to an open aquarium, use a humidifier, or mist it every day. The best room temperature should be between 18 to 29 degrees Celsius or 65 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Nights can be cooler, and orchids actually love this, but temperatures must never drop below 13 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, one of the reasons first-time indoor gardeners kill any type of plant or orchid, it's overwatering. You should try to check the humidity level inside your pot and water as needed. Many blogs and videos out there recommend watering orchids every 7 to 10 days, but personally I don't follow this rule and I prefer to check each pot separately. An appropriate method is submerging the orchid pot in water, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then take it away from the water source. Make sure the water has drained completely before placing the pot back into its original place. Nobody likes soggy feet, including your mini O. If you opt for watering from above, please make sure to reduce the quantity of water, as this type of plant is much smaller than your so-called regular Phalaenopsis and it requires less. During the active growth season, you can use an orchid fertilizer once a month, diluting it down to half its recommended dose. Everything should be at scale, it's a mini type after all. Like for your regular Phalaenopsis, once the flowers are gone, trim the spikes. Your plant will give new ones and flower again. As you can see, it's not so complicated to take care of a mini orchid. Just follow these simple guidelines and your plant should be just fine. Now in another video, I will show you the troubles I have with some of my older orchids and what you should also pay attention to. Hit the bell notification button so you won't miss that upload. Until then, please subscribe to this channel, hit the bell button and also the like button if you like this video and learn something new. In this way, you will help me spread the word to other fellow gardeners out there. Thank you for watching, stay happy and healthy, and see you next week. Bye bye!